You're listening to an archived Cabral Concept podcast. After listening to this show, check out the most up-to-date podcasts available at stephencabral.com/podcasts or search directly on iTunes. And now, welcome to the Cabral Concept, where board-certified naturopath and integrative health practitioner Dr. Stephen Cabral shares how he was diagnosed at the age of 17 with a life-altering illness and given no hope for recovery. It was only after studying and traveling all over the world did he discover how to combine ancient Ayurvedic healing practices with state-of-the-art naturopathic and functional medicine to fully rebalance the body and re-energize it with life. It's time to discover how to get well, lose weight, and finally feel alive again. And now, here's your host, Dr. Stephen Cabral.
I'm Stephen Cabral, and today on our Total Wellness Tuesday, I'm going to talk about something that's actually very important to me. It's really important to get this knowledge out to everyone because today's topic is on a food-based substance that almost everyone on earth is using right now, and it directly leads to cancer. And we're wondering why cancer rates are going up every single year. We wonder why cancer is overtaking everything and will soon be the number one cause of death in the United States. And right now you have a 40% likely chance that you will end up getting cancer in your lifetime. It's really, really sad. But there's so many things that we can do to prevent us from getting cancer. So I want to talk about that today. And I'm actually very happy that my voice is almost all the way back so I can really get into this topic today. Because for me to be able to share this with others is just vitally important. And I do hope that you act on it once you learn this information. That's this. That almost every day, most of us are eating products that contain hydrogenated oils, or basically vegetable oils that have been cooked. Now, vegetable oils, we've been told, are very healthy for us. The U.S. government told us, and many governments around the world, that vegetable oils are the way to go. That the polyunsaturated fats, which are vegetable oils, will not cause heart disease, not cause all of these things. But what they forgot to say was vegetable oils or vegetables or these things that contain vegetable oil, when not cooked, can be healthy, right? But when cooked, they miss that little caveat that it actually becomes a fat or a toxin that can cause cancer. So let's get into it. What are those chemicals that are causing cancer from these vegetable oils? Well, they're called aldehydes, or more specifically, aldehydyl lipid oxidation products, just called LOPs. So if I say LOPs today, that's what I mean. It's the end products of taking an oil and heating it up, typically longer than 10 minutes. So what they've shown is that if you're cooking something and it's in there for longer than 10 minutes, or if it's cooked at a very high heat, like deep frying, that has the same exact effect, if not more, and that causes these toxic byproducts. Well, it's these chemicals that create free radical damage and create the cancer potential within our body, but not just cancer. It also has been shown to cause heart disease, dementia, birth defects, ulcers, high blood pressure. So now when we look at, all of these things are prevalent in the world around us and in society. And they're building up each and every year, which is why when we hit our 30s, we hit our 40s, we hit our 50s, that we're getting these different types of diseases in our body. And that's because our cells have been under attack every single day. And that's because, remember, if you're eating chips, if you're eating French fries, if you're eating, let's say, processed foods in general, you're going to have these vegetable oils that have been heated up and that can cause these potential aldehydes. Now, what are these polyunsaturated? Well, a lot of them are soy, they're nuts, they're seeds, and they're oils, right, that have been coming from it. So I want to actually get into the studies now, the research, because I don't want you to know that this is not just me saying this. I have no agenda whatsoever. In the UK, they did a lot of this research, and especially Professor John Stein, as a professor of neuroscience at the University of Oxford, and they did a bunch of studies. And one main one is they looked at these 4 specific oils, or really 5. They looked at sunflower oil, which is a polyunsaturated, corn oil, extra virgin olive oil, butter, and coconut oil. Now, what they found was this, that in just 10 minutes, they found that sunflower oil, corn oil, and extra virgin olive oil all started producing these aldehydes, these toxins. But after 20 minutes, corn oil and sunflower oil started increasing the most. So when you look at this, you can say, well, corn oil and sunflower oil, those are the high omega-6s. Those are the polyunsaturated fats. Olive oil, like avocado and peanut and canola, those are more monounsaturated. They're in the middle, okay? And the saturated ones were the butter and the coconut oil. So I'm going to bring it all together at the end, telling you which ones you should use. But essentially, when you're looking at nuts and seeds and their oils, those are the ones that are going to break down the fastest with heat. So could you use those as a dressing? Yes, but you would not want to heat them up, okay? And in general, you don't want to be consuming a lot of these oils in general. Again, they're processed. All oils are processed in general. So, but what you have to do is be very careful of how long you're cooking and at the heat that you're cooking. I mean, like olive oil could be cooked in a sauce at a low heat, but you would not want to cook it at a high heat. Olive oil is better as a dressing after the food has already been cooked. Okay, that's very, very important as well. Now, butter and coconut oil did the best, and especially coconut oil. It did the very best at the length of cooking and the heat. And the reason is that it is a saturated fat, which just simply means that the carbon and hydrogen bonds, there are no double bonds to basically break them up. And again, you don't need to know the biochemistry of that, but what it means is that they can hold up longer under more heat. There's less ability to break those and sever those. And monounsaturated, there's typically only one double bond, which means it's not as easy to break that up. Poly means many, and that's obviously easier than to break up those bonds. Okay, so when it comes right down to it is you really have to start looking at your labels. You have to make sure that you are limiting, if not completely cutting out your French fries or your chips that have been deep fried. Now, if you were to make your own French fries and bake them and then add a little oil afterwards and a little sea salt, well, that's fine. You can make sweet potato fries that way. You can make other types of potato fries that way as well, yuca fries, and those could be absolutely fantastic. But you do really have to watch out for these fried foods. They just showed, again, in a study as well, that fish and chips, which just basically means fried fish or fried anything, and chips is French fries. It's just in the UK they call it chips. So fish and chips had 100 to 200 times more toxic aldehydes, which is basically toxic chemicals that can cause cancer, than the daily safe upper limit by the World Health Organization. That means if you're eating fried food, you are getting dramatically large amounts, 100, 200 times the amount of the safe limit that could potentially cause cancer. This is like smoking. I mean, eating these types of foods is literally looking at like, well, if I smoke, I could very easily get cancer. Well, same with this. If you're eating fried foods or processed foods that contain these fried oils, the likelihood that you can get cancer, it just goes up dramatically. So if you are cooking with oil, use either a grass-fed butter or ghee or coconut oil. Now, my recommendation is that you simply saute in a little bit of water. Okay, that's very easy, especially if you're using frozen veggies. If you bake or you broil or anything like that, you don't need to add anything. You can add your oil afterwards. Or if you're using oil like olive oil as a dressing before you bake, squeeze some lemon in with it. That lemon has some antioxidants that will help the breakdown as well. And then you could also do slow cooking. Slow cooking was used in Ayurvedic times. And Ayurvedic times, they used some polyunsaturated fats, but they cooked for hours under a very, very low heat, and that's completely different as well. And they cooked it with a lot of foods that have antioxidants and herbs that have antioxidants. So bottom line is, if you're going to cook with oils, make sure it's coconut oil or make sure it's grass-fed butter or ghee. Use monounsaturated oils like avocado or olive oil as your dressings. Stay away from the canola oil, even though it's monounsaturated, because it's 90+% GMO. And again, you want to stay away from your GMO oils. And then if you're going to use an omega-6 oil, which are inflammatory, that's the corn or the sunflower oil, the safflower oil. Just make sure you're using them cold pressed, cold processed, never heated. So hopefully that gave you a little insight into how you should be cooking your food, really what to watch out for. And again, the more toxins you can stay away from, the less chance that you're going to develop cancer. And again, we have to deal with environmental toxins. We need to deal with toxins in our water. We need to deal with toxins in our food. So every little step does dramatically help. So again, hopefully this podcast answered a lot of those questions today. If there are any questions, you can always simply contact me at StephenCabral.com/Ask Cabral. Let me know your questions there. Please do pass it on this episode to as many people as you can. I want to get this information to as many people's hands as we can and get them to start living a healthier life as well. Thanks again, everyone, for tuning in to another Cabral Concept.
I want to sincerely thank you for your support of this podcast. I couldn't do it without you, and I mean that. I truly do. I also want to make sure you knew that we now have multiple ways for you to find your answers to the most difficult health, wellness, weight loss, and anti-aging questions. You can find podcast-specific topics like thyroid, adrenal, hormones, sleep, digestion, Ayurveda, and many more at stephencabral.com/podcasts that will then link you to your favorite Apple, Spotify, and other podcast players. Plus, all new podcasts and weekly exclusive video content is being added to our YouTube channel at youtube.com/Stephen Cabral. And that's Stephen with a PH. Head on over and subscribe so that you don't miss any of the exclusive content. Lastly, if you've ever found any of my podcasts or books to be helpful, I would really appreciate it if you could leave a review on iTunes or your favorite media player for the podcast. Rating and subscribing to the YouTube and podcast allow me to reach more and more people and help spread my mission of healing throughout the world. Thank you again for being a part of this movement.